Aloha Headests, Frank here, and the PlayStation VR has been out in the wild for a little over 3 months. What started as a childhood dream is finally a reality. And although I'm still overwhelmed with how much I enjoy my PlayStation VR, I can't honestly say there aren't a few shortcomings. Nothing that worries me about the future, I'm just here to nitpick. So, without any further ado, I present virtually free 3 months of my PlayStation VR. Now this video will be slightly different in format than all the rest. Instead of just listing out facts or sharing my general opinion, I will be placing all of this into a little story that I believe well illustrates my experience thus far. Although, what's far more important than my story is yours. I want to hear about your experiences so far as well. So, please share them with me in the comments. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. Now, to start this all off, we have to go back around 20 years. Your boy Frank was 7, and other than realizing how to masturbate for the first time, video games have recently become my bread and butter. My sister was born when I was 6, and my mother, being the wonderful reformed hippie that she was, decided video games were terrible for children and had yet to allow them in our house. Then came the hospital visits, doctor visits, trips to the ER, and one lonely little boy stuck at home with his babysitter. Now, if you know anything about me already, you know my family owns a restaurant, and when we first started out, my father spent around 14 hours a day there, and the rest was spent sleeping. So, with a new daughter on the way, my mom finally gave in and bought me a Sega Genesis. And from that point on, I was utterly consumed with the medium. I was one of those kids, and let's be honest, still am, that would move with the characters on screen. I jerked left, I jerked right, my mouth would open wide when I was wowed, and my tongue was out when I was wrapped up in the action. VR wasn't there at the time, but I didn't need it. I was hooked. I lived, slept, and breathed video games. Then, when I was around 10, my family took me to our spring fling, a little downtown carnival we have annually. And for the first time ever, they had a virtual reality shooter attraction. This thing was nuts. There was a giant ring that you stepped into with a big headset that fed wonderful vector graphics into both my eyes. It was attached to a big plastic vest and also had a big wire gun that you held. It was awesome. I don't even remember the gameplay. I assume it was just a simple shooting gallery, but putting all that on and entering on the world changed me. The memory has forever lived with me, and I have trouble remembering a lot. So when I started seeing commercials for the PlayStation VR, that little kid in me started jumping for joy. Now, I got my PS4 on launch night, and I followed the PSVR since it was Project Morpheus, but I never thought I would be lucky enough to grab a launch bundle. I kept calling GameStop all day, and finally around 9 o'clock, they let me come wait in line. 3 hours later, I was walking out with the biggest smile on my face ever. I was ready for the future. I got home, and within 5 minutes the box was open. I made sure to take my time, and as always, I made sure to keep every little piece. Now, this is where I ran into my first struggle. Don't get me wrong, the included instructions are easy to follow. I just wish I would have organized my old cables beforehand, because my whole setup got a kick in the teeth. The cables go everywhere, and now 3 months in, at my 5th setup, I'm just starting to feel happy about its placement, and I still see room for improvement. But all of that is besides the point. Back to setting it up. So, I was all set up, but then I realized I only had one USB port to charge my 2 Move controllers. What was I to do? I didn't yet have a dock, so I just figured I would let the first one charge while I was playing, and the other charge overnight. Not the best way of doing things, but it was my only option. Now that I have the Pro, and more importantly a nice dock, it's not really an issue, but it was something that did bother me the first night. I recently saw that Nyko is releasing a Y-shaped cable that can charge both controllers at once, and I don't see why Sony couldn't have included something like that. Now, like I said, I purchased a launch bundle, so VR Worlds came with my unit, and wow, what a great introduction to the PlayStation VR. Don't get me wrong, it's not some amazing must-have game that you need to go out and purchase right now, but boy was I glad they included it with my system. The lobby alone blew my mind. It was the perfect entrance into what would soon become my new favorite obsession. But sadly, all the games don't really stack up. Don't get me wrong, London Heist is wonderful, Ocean Descent is a beautiful experience, and Scavenger's Odyssey is alright. Danger Ball is fun the first time you play around with it, but VR Luge is trash, and overall there's very little replayability. Honestly, other than the London High shooting range, I haven't really been back in at all. So I think as a higher priced release, it really isn't worth it. I really think it should have been included with every PSVR. I think it's a perfect introduction to the system, and if bundled would only help to increase the value of your initial purchase. But I digress. Now, after Worlds, I tried the demo disc and purchased rigs. Both were amazing. I loved that there was a demo disc that showed off the most available games, and it really opened my eyes to some cool games I had never even heard of. The next day, I decided to step out of my comfort zone and try Weeping Doll. There really wasn't any information out about it, and the description made it sound like a bit of a horror puzzle game, so I thought, why not? I'd give it a try. First, let me tell you, don't buy this game. It's terrible. They've said that they'll patch it in the future, but honestly, all the patches in the world couldn't save this one. I was sad and worried that a lot of other games might be like that. I decided I needed to warn people. So I grabbed my computer and started typing away my feelings. This led to my first ever game review. I recorded myself through the built-in microphone, downloaded gameplay footage from the system, I edited everything together, put a few titles, and uploaded it to YouTube. I would have been happy if 10 people saw my review, but within 24 hours, I had over 300 views. I was overjoyed. I even had a comment or two of people thanking me for saving them some money. In my eyes, that's a job well done. And I saw a new door open, and as you can guess, the rest is history. Now, since then, I've played almost every game that has come out for PSVR. Some are wonderful, some are terrible, but honestly, the ratio leans far more on the positive side of things. Lately, I've been seeing a lot of hate and stress from the community since we haven't seen a release in 3 weeks. But Europe has already been in that boat for far longer than us, and we have games that they want to play. Just take a look at the Nintendo Switch that comes out just a little over a month. It has almost no launch titles, and I'm sure if you go back, you could say the same about nearly every console release. And let's be honest here, this really isn't a new console, at least not right now. This is a premium peripheral that enhances one's gaming experience. This is not the end-all be-all and death of 2D games, but it is an amazing new revolutionary device that has given nearly every consumer the ability to enter a new reality that is truthfully wonderful. In the last 3 months, I was surprised by a few releases and now have a collection of over 30 titles, and I still don't have everything. We've already seen a handful of wonderful stuff coming out in 2017, and I'm sure that along the way, just like in the past 3 months, we'll see many more titles come our way. It's just a matter of patience. And don't forget, Resident Evil is just a little over a week away from us. In conclusion, I think I must discuss the camera and move controllers. Camera-wise, I do see the limitations of having only one, but for most games, I don't really see much of an issue. Sure, I'd love a room scale setup, but how many of us really have that as an option? And out of most of the games I've played thus far, I haven't really seen a need for it. Sure, I'd love to walk around the pool table and sports bar, but I can live without it. I mean, don't forget, 3 months ago my favorite pool app was on my cell phone. Now, move controllers are another beast. Some games they work perfectly, some games they're trash, which really does lead me to believe that it's more in the hands of the software than the hardware. Sure, I would love some new tech that has true and precise one-to-one tracking, but as it stands, for the relative affordability of the hardware, I really can't complain. Sure, I leave the gameplay area. Sometimes my hands go all over the place, and I've even had a little bit of drift in some games, but truthfully, none of that has ever compromised the enjoyment of anything I was doing. Yeah, I wish it wasn't there, but I don't think anything comes without a few flaws, and hopefully down the line, a patch can help solve some of these issues. Now, I found a wonderful new paradise in my PlayStation VR. It's become an amazing new social tool for me, and it's changed the way I look at a gaming experience. I really do think that anyone who owns a PS4 already should seriously consider purchasing one. I know stock is hard to find now, but this thing is game-changing. And for any game developers out there, this amazing tool is looking to finally usher in an indie revival. So please, if you haven't already, consider VR support on your next title. Now, I know there are much higher level VR experiences out there, but if you're like me and don't have thousands of dollars in a spare room at the ready, but you still want a premium VR experience, then purchasing a PlayStation 4 and PlayStation VR is the way to go. It may not be the sharpest, but you're still getting the best VR games on the market and the most comfortable experience out there. Well, that's it for that one. Are you still enjoying your PlayStation VR? Are you still waiting to get one, or are you just saying forget about it? Let me know in the comments. As always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please hit that thumbs up button. And if you want to stay up to date on everything PlayStation VR, and you don't mind this ugly mug, friggin' subscribe!